So Reader's Digest recently asked some of their readers to submit stories of friendship. And so I was reading through them this week and thought I would share a couple of my favorite with you. A lady named Betty from Michigan says, I grew up in a family that didn't show affection. I knew I was loved, but it was rarely expressed, either in words or with a hug. And then at the age of 40, I met Judy. I quickly noticed how often she told her kids she loved them and how she hugged everyone hello and goodbye. And as with any habit, I picked it up, and the more I did so, the easier it became for me. Now I never fail to hug friends or family members, and it has completely changed how I relate to them. It's an awesome feeling. I love you, Judy, she says. That's cool. A dude named Jason. My fiance walked out on me 3 days before our wedding. Now every year on the anniversary of the day I would have been married, my best friend texts me with a hilarious and completely inappropriate picture reminding me that I dodged a bullet. His humor makes a hard day better. So good stuff there. Tracy from here in Minnesota says, I was having a horrible day dealing with job and divorce stress, and my friend Anna brought me ice cream. Just having her to show up and listen to me whine was exactly what I needed. So we all need somebody to listen to us every once in a while. And then a guy named David, after my wife of 44 years died, I didn't feel the urge to socialize, but that didn't stop my friend Tony from inviting me to join a group of guys who got together every Thursday for dinner. I told him I wasn't ready. He called again the next week, and again I said no. He kept calling every week, and finally I said, okay, I'll go. Anything to keep you from calling me every week. So it's now been 6 years since my wife died. And thanks to Tony, I've been going to dinner every week with the gang we've dubbed Romeo, which stands for Retired Old Men Eating Out. So great stories, right? Great stories of life and friendship. And these kinds of stories, the world we live in today, these are becoming more and more rare. We are living in what some sociologists are calling friendship recession. I don't know if you've heard that term. It's out there. It's describing really the post-COVID reality that we're living in, this friendship recession. The research is pretty unanimous that we are significantly more isolated. As individual people, we're significantly more isolated. And because we're more isolated, we're lonelier than we have ever been. Most people don't have anybody close in their lives. Now, there's a variety of reasons for this. People have dug in and tried to figure it out because, well-meaning people want to help. There's a variety of reasons for this, but the ones that seem to surface in most of the spots are we are too busy for friendships and we are too tired. Those are just major contributors to friendship epidemic and the loneliness that we experience. Our digital and our online connections do not have near as much value for us as we assign to them. That's one of the reasons we're experiencing friendship recession, because we have friends, but we are connected to them through the computer or the phone, and we think we have friends, and what we're finding, the research is finding more and more, is that those friendships are not, they don't give to us what we need, and we don't give to other people what they need in the context of those relationships. And so these digital and online friendships aren't as good. You know this, we all know this. Isolation and loneliness are hurting our physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual well-being. We're just not made to do life alone, and we're doing life alone, and because of that, it's not going well for any of us, right? So we physically, it harms our physical health, our mental health, our emotional health, our spiritual health. Like at every turn, we're hurt because we are living life more and more isolated and more alone. And this was really interesting to me that the isolation, brain research is showing that the isolation's rewiring our brains so that we are less and less willing to engage in the habits that lead to healthy, life-giving friendships. So we're in this, I know it's like this downward spiral because we're lonely, we're alone, we need friends, but the loneliness, like we don't want to do the things that make friends, and so we're just in this, it's just a self-fulfilling prophecy, this downward spiral for us. And so we're living in this friendship recession, more lonely and isolated than we've ever been. So hold that, and then listen to what God says in Proverbs chapter 18, verse 24. One who has unreliable friends soon comes to ruin, but there's a friend who sticks closer than a brother. So people with unreliable friends come to ruin. So I was thinking about unreliable friends, unreliable friendships, and I just kind of thought three different directions when I was thinking about the unreliable friends that I've experienced, that I've seen in other people's lives. So there's the first kind of unreliable friend is the friend who ropes you into trouble. And I was thinking back over my life and thought of a few stories that I could tell, but I'm not gonna. I'll keep my stories to me, and we'll let you keep your stories to you. But we've all had those friends who rope us into trouble, right? And hopefully most of your stories are harmless, but some of it, for some of it, like we're still paying the price, right? So an unreliable friend could be a friend who ropes you into trouble. Unreliable friends are acquaintances, not necessarily friends, right? So this actually is where most of us live. We have a number of acquaintances. For most of us, there's a long list of people that you could send a text to, or that you could call or text and say, hey, let's go have coffee, let's go have lunch or dinner together. Like there's this list of people that you could spend some time with, but they're an outer circle of friends. And for many in our world, the inner circle of friends is empty. We have a fairly full outer circle and a really empty inner circle. And it's not that there's anything wrong with being an outer circle friend, but when you are looking to an acquaintance to do a friend's job, that doesn't work. When you are looking at an outer circle person and relying on them like they're an inner circle person, what happens is your outer circle people, they fade out of your life when you're looking to them for more than what friendship will bear. And so an unreliable person who has unreliable friends, they soon come to ruin. And then the third one I was thinking about is the friends who don't stick. Right? The proverb says there's the unreliable friends and there's the friend who sticks closer than a brother. And the friend who doesn't stick, this is the person who's in the inner circle of your life. And you know they're in the inner circle and they know they're in the inner circle, and for something like goes good for a little bit and then something happens and then they're stepping out of the inner circle of your life. They're not who you thought they were, and so now your inner circle is empty because this person that you were relying on is actually unreliable for you. And so there's these unreliable friends that we have in our lives, and what the Bible says to us is that somebody who's got an unreliable friend, their life comes to some version of ruin, right? If this is the friendships you have, if the only friendships you have are people who are unreliable, you're gonna experience some version of ruin in your life. But there is a friend who sticks closer than a brother. All right, so as I was exploring that, I was remembering back. So I grew up in church. I grew up going to Sunday school as a little kid, and I've heard this proverb since earliest days. And in Sunday school, this proverb would be read, and then the teacher would say, and who's the friend who sticks closer than a brother? And all of us who've been to church all of our lives, what's the answer to the question? It's Jesus, right? We're 100% right about that, all right? So I want to talk about that in just a minute. We're 100% right about Jesus being the friend who sticks closer than a brother. But if Jesus is your only friend, or if you're not friends with Jesus and you don't have any other friends, you're going to find yourself on the path that leads to ruin. And so we need to talk about being friendship, about being friends, about having good friends, and finding good people to be part of our lives. So this series, you'll remember, those of you who've been with us, this series is called Foolproof. And we're starting from the line that the fool says in their heart, there is no God, right? So we're talking about how to foolproof our life. And in order to foolproof our life, what we've got to do is find those areas of our lives where we're living like there's no God. It doesn't mean that you just declare for the course of the direction of your life or the starting point of your life that, hey, I don't believe in a God. This is there. Each one of us have spots in our hearts, in our lives, where we're living like there's no God. And so we're exploring this series together, some spots where maybe we're living like what God says doesn't really matter. It doesn't count. Like what we want to do is more important for us, and for bringing that into God's light and into his direction so we can live in the direction of his blessing. And so God says that the people who have unreliable friends, their life comes to ruin. There's a friend who sticks closer than a brother. And so what I'd like to do is spend kind of the rest of our time together talking for a few minutes about some qualities of friends who stick. So there's a friend who sticks closer than a brother, some qualities of some friends who stick, and not just what we're looking for, right, but what we're trying to become in each other's lives. And then I'd like to kind of get to the heart of the matter and explore with us the things that are going on in our hearts as people who are impacted by this friendship recession, all right? So here's a list of qualities for friends who stick. And if you need to take a picture of the screen or screenshot it, those of you who are watching online, that's awesome, you can do that. The first quality of a friend who will stick, these are inner circle friends, is somebody who values friendship too. Right? You can't make somebody want to be your friend. You know, you can't chase somebody into this. If friendship's not a high value for them at this point in their life, then this isn't an inner circle friend. Awesome acquaintance, awesome somebody that you would text every once in a while or maybe go have some coffee with, but not the person that you're going to be in each other's inner circle. So they value friendship in their life too. And so this is something that's going to be important for them. Inner circle friends are considerate of each other. I gave you Proverbs 27:14 there. I love this little verse because it says, a loud greeting early in the morning lands like a curse. Right? Just as our family, we've got 4 kids, and so about half of us in our family are morning people and wake up whistling and happy and excited for the day, and the other half of our family, we're not morning people. And so those of us who are morning people have to tone it down a little bit so as not to ruin the day for the people who are not morning. So we fully understood this proverb, what we're talking about here, about there's just loud blessing early in the morning lands as a curse for people. And then the Proverbs 28 talks about a friend who would say something harsh, say something rude, say something deceitful to you, and then, well, I was only joking, right? We've all experienced that in our lives, and it's a lot of things, but at a minimum, it's inconsiderate. And so the people who are going to fill the closest spots in our lives, and if you want to fill a spot close in somebody's life, to be considerate of them. We need people in our lives, inner circle friends. The Proverbs tell us over and over again, we need people who encourage the best in us. Proverbs 27:17 says, just like iron sharpens iron, one person sharpens another. And so we need people in our lives who will look for the best, who will see the best, who will call out the best in us, and we encourage the best in one another. The closest people in our lives have access to be able to do that, and so we want to engage best in one another. We need people who show grace. Proverbs 17:9 talks about how love covers over a multitude of sins. And just willing to be gracious with each other, because, you know, the closer you are to somebody, the more you see, right? And the deeper you let them into your life, the more they see. And we don't need somebody who's on our case all the time. We don't need somebody we need love that will be forgiving towards us and gracious towards us, and love covers over a multitude of sins in our lives. And so we need people who will show us grace. We also need people who will tell us the truth. And Proverbs 27 talks about faithful are the wounds of a friend. And here first in all that like you got to be the friend before the wounds are faithful. If you're not a friend, it's just wounds in somebody else's life. But faithful are the wounds of a friend. You can trust the people who are close to you to say the truth to you. And then a little later in that chapter, a few verses down, it talks about people speaking blessing and encouragement to us. And so we need people who will tell us the truth, again, who will tell us when there's something we really need to hear because we're headed in a wrong direction, and who will tell us what we really need to hear because it's good and it's right in us, and to call that out. Most of us do not have people in our lives who speak words of encouragement and blessing to us. And so we need those people who are close in us. And we need to be that person for somebody. So we show grace, we tell the truth, keeping confidence. Keeping confidence it's a huge thing. Proverbs 18 there talks about how gossip separates close friends. So it's talking about somebody. When you know something about their life, they know something about your life, they spread it around out there, whether it's true or not, right? When they spread it around, that causes more hurt and more division in friendships. Talking outside the circle of that friendship causes more divide in our lives, more hurt and pain than probably anything else. And then the last one is we need people in our lives who are faithful and who are faith-filled. So they will be faithful friends, they will be faithful followers of Jesus with us, and they're faith-filled. They believe God, they believe what he says, they believe in us, they'll call forth the best in us, for us, they'll help us pray. We need faith people in our lives so that we could walk forward. And you guys are hearing me, everybody's shaking our head, yes, like we're in agreement, right? These are the kind of people we want to be, and these are the kind of people we want in our lives. And we agree in theory, and we know the list isn't complete, but if you had somebody like this in your life, the deepest part of your life, or if you were this for somebody, like that would be a beautiful thing. And yet we all struggle to find and to have these kinds of friends, and we're hesitant. We're not in a friendship recession. We are not as lonely and isolated as we've ever been because we don't know what a friend looks like or because we don't know how to be one. We're lonely and isolated because there are some things that are going on in our hearts, and we struggle to find and be the kinds of friends who stick with one another. And so I'd like to talk about those heart things for a minute and see if we can maybe make some progress and begin to get beyond them. And so when I think about my hesitancies for letting people into the inner circle of my life. So again, we're not talking about acquaintance, outer circle people. We all have plenty of those. But God tells us that person with unreliable friends, just the outer circle, your life, if there's nobody in the inner circle, your life, it's going to come to some version of ruin. And so when I think about my hesitancies, I just wrote a couple of them down. The first is, I'm busy. I agree with that research about busy. I'm busy. I have a job I give a lot to. I have a family I love. I have some hobbies that are pretty solitary by nature. And so doing those things between work and family and my hobbies, I'm pretty busy, and it doesn't feel like there's a whole lot of time to give to friendship. So I know you experience that, and I get tired from the pace of life that I live, and in the research on friendship recession stuff, too tired and too busy were big things, and that resonates with me. I'm just like, yeah, I totally understand that. I totally get that. And then I'm a guy, and so I know that we all need this inner circle of friends. I know from God's perspective, we all need this inner circle of friends, but I don't always feel that need. And so just as a guy, I don't feel that, and so it kind of makes me hesitant to step in. And the other thing I know in that is when there are people who are in the inner circle of your life, it can complicate things, and I kind of like it simple. So I've got that going on. And then the other big one for me is I have some people who were inner circle people, and then they ended up not sticking. And so when you have inner circle people who walk out of the inner circle of your life in a hurtful way, it's really tempting just to close off that inner circle so that it's just me, or it's just me and Jesus, and we'll be fine in all of that. And so I don't know what your hesitancies are, but I'm betting there's something similar. We're at least in the same ballpark, right? Of why we're participating in the friendship recession, even though we know better in this. And so To help us through that, to maybe challenge us a little bit, but I think this will be encouraging and helpful to you. Let me offer you a handful of things about finding good people, all right? So the first one is to have good people in your life. You got to really believe that what God says is right. Okay, so this is a faith decision. So you gotta decide to believe that when God said it's not good for people to be alone, that it is not good to be alone. He made that declaration in Genesis chapter 2 after he created Adam, and there was no one in all creation for him or like him. And God just looked and he said, it's not good for humankind to be alone. And so he put us together. And we have to believe that it's not good even if we think it's okay. Right? Even if it feels like it's good in the moment because I've been hurt and I want some distance, or because I'm a loner by nature. Okay, but this is a faith decision to believe God when he says it's not good for us to be alone and that it is good for us to be together. Ecclesiastes chapter 4, the verses I've given you there, talks about how two people, like if you're by yourself and you fall down, there's nobody to help you up. But two people who are together, like they can stay warm when it's cold, and a strand of 3 cords is really hard to break. I mean, it just talks about the value of us, how we're better together, we're stronger together, we need one another in our lives, and we need people at the inner circle of our lives. And so there's a faith decision just to believe God that what he says is gonna go in my life. And then to be a person who prays and asks God to give you good inner circle people for your life. James chapter 1, verse 17 says that every good and perfect gift comes from God. And you're not gonna find a perfect friend, but you could find a good friend, a good and perfect gift from God, and one of these inner circle kind of people. And I mean, like you noticed when I walked through that list of kind of people that make these good inner circle friends, like what wasn't on the list was they're so pretty, they're so smart, they're so funny, they're so popular, they're like me, they're enough like me. Like none of that's on the list. And because good friends are a gift from God. And so the friends that God is giving to you might not be the kind of friend that you happen to be looking for in the moment. And so to be a person who prays and asks God to give me these inner circle kinds of friends and help me be able to see these friends that you're giving to me in these moments. We've had friends in our lives. We have friends in our lives right now who are just this beautiful gift to us from God. Friends who stick. And so to ask God to give you friends who stick in your life. So pray and ask God to give you these kinds of friends. And then to bring your wounded heart before the Lord for the healing that he wants you to have. This subject of friendship feels like it's could be this light, fluffy, funny kind of conversation, right? But if you've been at it for very long in your life, there's a lot of pain associated with this. People have hurt you. And you've probably hurt somebody else too, and not done it on purpose, but it's just happened. As human beings, we go about life and together. And so to bring your wounded heart before the Lord for the healing that he wants to give to you. In Isaiah chapter 53, speaking about Jesus, by his stripes, by his death on the cross, you and I can receive healing. And that includes the friendship wounds, the heart wounds that you have suffered at the hands of other people. By his stripes, you are healed. And I talked a little bit ago about, the Sunday school answer for the friend that sticks closer than a brother. It really is Jesus, right? It really is Jesus. He is the friend who sticks. I love what the Apostle Paul wrote. It's in 2 Timothy chapter 4. And he was talking about this really difficult season, really difficult event in his life. And he said, no one stood by me. Everybody deserted me. Like all my people left. But the Lord was with me, stood by me, and strengthened me. And so Jesus really is the friend who sticks. And more than that, he's our healer. So he's if you're willing to receive his forgiveness and the life that he's offering you, if you're willing to receive his friendship, he's not just a friend, he's our healer, and he will bring his healing into your life. And it's the coolest thing. You know the parts of your life that need to be healed, or you know some of them, right? And so when you receive this forgiveness and this life that Jesus is offering to you, and you bring this wounded heart before him and ask him to be your healer, he'll speak his healing into the stuff you're asking him for, and he will heal you of stuff you're not ready to deal with yet, or that you don't really know needs to be dealt with at this point. When Jesus steps into your life, he's a friend, better friend than you ever anticipated having. And when he is your healer, he heals you. Like, he heals you. He just doesn't heal the little slices of your life. He's our healer. And so to bring your wounded heart before the Lord for the healing that he wants you to experience it's an incredible opportunity. It's an incredible opportunity that we have. And then this last thing about finding good people is to, even before you've received this healing that God is offering to you, is to begin to align your priorities with what God says is best. Remember from Psalm 14 and Psalm 53, both of those Psalms start with the same line. The fool says in their heart, there's no God. And that's why we're trying to foolproof our lives. We want to live our lives as if there's a God, as if what he says is important, as if what he says for you and for me, we should live that way. That's the path of blessing. And so to begin to make room in our lives for these inner circle friends, and to begin to be the kind of person in somebody else's life who is an inner circle friend. And as, I don't know, hyper busy, maybe pretty exhausted people, you hear me say, we're going to begin to explore friendship, deepen friendship, move into somebody else's life and friendship. And we're back to the whole, I don't have time for that. I don't have energy for that. I'm not asking you to add something in your life at this point. I actually would say to you, you should probably cut something in your life to create space, to create room for what God says to you is the most important thing. From God's perspective, for you and for me to have inner circle people in our lives is a most important thing, because the person who has unreliable friends, their life comes to ruin, but there is a friend who sticks. And God wants you to experience life with the person who sticks. And so to begin to make some decisions to line your life up with what God says is most important is a critical thing. And I was thinking, okay, so how to be helpful about that, right? So here's where I want to land all of this for us. And we'll end with a time of prayer, but just to be thinking about this. I don't know the rest of your life, but you're in church. And I don't know where else you go, but I know that church is a pretty good place to find people who will stick, right? And so how do you find in church, how do you find people who will stick in your life? And so here's how it goes. If you're gonna find people who will stick at church, first is just to come to church every week, right? To keep coming to church. You're here, you're part of it. Those of you who are online, we invite you in if you can make it. If you can't make it, online church counts. But don't let online church be the substitute for not coming. If you can make it, come to church, come every week. I tell, sit in the same general spot. I see you guys from up here. You guys who come most weeks, you sit in the same spot. And you're funny. If somebody's in your spot and didn't know, I see that too, right? And so sit in the same general spot and you'll see the same general people, and maybe at some point, one of you will work up the courage to say, hey, my name is, right? What's your name? I give you full permission when we're done here to look at somebody that you should know their name by now, but you do not. And just ask them, I'm so sorry, will you tell me your name, or will you tell me your name again? It will be fine. The walls won't fall in, the roof won't fall down. Your life will go on, and begin to meet. So come to church and come every week and hang around a little while. So you guys who've been here more than a year, we built a welcome space for the purpose of hanging around and welcoming people into our lives. So it's been beautiful to watch. One of the things when we celebrate, it's been beautiful to watch our church use the space for its intended purpose, to engage with one another. And I would encourage you and applaud you for not standing in circles, standing in U's, making room in your circle of friends for somebody else. You see somebody alone, somebody you don't know, bring them in. Let's come to church, and while we're at church, share our lives. Welcome people into your life. Welcome into our church. We welcome into the mission and the vision that God has given to us. It's an awesome space, and we're doing a great job using it. So I applaud you. Keep it up. Let's keep going. There's next steps for all of us in that. So let's keep moving forward in that. Come to church. Get in a group. If you are in the friendship recession and you no longer want to participate, we have groups of people who meet together for the purpose of being present in each other's lives. They have Bible study stuff they do, they have prayer stuff they do, they have mission trip stuff they do stuff, but the purpose of meeting together is not the activity, it's the relationship. Because we need these kind of friends in our lives. And so if you're not in a group, you should be in a group. Like, that'd be a great way to begin to engage with some other people who are good people, who are inner circle kind of people. So get into a group and then serve on a team. To serve on a team. We have all kinds of service teams that are here in our church, that serve here, that serve in the community. These are the people you want in your life, right? These are the people who are sacrificial in the way they live. They're others focused. They're engaged with stuff beyond themselves. These are great people that you could have be part of your life. And the quickest path and the deepest friendships at church are built on service teams. When you're connected and you connect every week or once a month and you're with the same people and you serve together, like it's this beautiful thing. And so serve on a team. So with all this in mind, I want us to spend a couple minutes in prayer, just responding to what you've heard as I've talked, responding to what you've heard, reflecting on what you've heard and responding to it. And so what we're gonna do, I'm gonna ask you to bow your head and close your eyes. And I'm gonna lead you in a response prayer, and we'll say yes to some things that God has for us and get to walk out of here in the path that he blesses. All right, so will you guys bow your head and close your eyes with me? So Heavenly Father, thank you for speaking into the nuts and bolts of our lives. This topic of friendship, we need it. We need to be reminded, we need to be encouraged. There are people around us who need the life that you give, the life that you offer through us. And so we're saying yes to this. So friends, this is just a moment to say yes to what God is offering you. And so maybe you need to say yes to friendship with Jesus, to receive the forgiveness that he's offering you through his death on the cross. Yes to the life that he's offering you through his resurrection from the dead. Enter into a relationship with him as a real person, not just somebody you heard about at church or a character in a book, but to begin to know him as a person who is alive and real. Say yes to his healing. The healing he wants. By his stripes, you could be healed. If you'll say yes to his healing for your heart, he heals you, you get healed. Maybe you've got pain. And when I was talking about friends who walked out of the inner circle in a way that hurt you, you had a name, you had a face. You just need to hold that before the Lord and ask him to speak into that, to speak over that. friend. Every good and perfect gift comes to us from God. You could ask him for the gift of a friend, an inner circle friend, a reliable friend. And as you're asking him for that gift, ask him to make you into that kind of friend. So Lord, we hold this tender stuff before you. Thank you for your compassion. Thank you for your love. Thank you for your willingness to engage, that you see us, you hear us, you know us, that you are with us. Pray that you would rescue us from a life filled with arm's length friends, only unreliable friends. Jesus, we want to be and we want to experience friendship that sticks. So we can do life together and live out your vision, your greater purpose for each one of us in good and healthy ways. It's not good for us to be alone. It is good for us to be together. We receive that from you. We agree with it, and we're going to pursue it. So thank you for this gift of friendship. And Jesus, all of this comes to us through you, and so we are praying these things in your name, and together everybody says, amen.